Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And this is a moon day, moon hour, very, very moony, with the ascendant in 11 degrees Cancer, and the moon conjuncting the IC here in Virgo, 28 degrees Virgo, right before it leaves Virgo. And the moon it might not be making any traditional aspect. So traditionally, we would say, I believe still that the moon is void, but it does make a particular aspect in modern astrology or outer planets inclusive astrology, and that is separating from the opposition to Neptune, which is in 26 degrees Pisces, and the midheaven in 27 degrees Pisces, with Jupiter, the ruler, in 10 degrees Taurus. So a lot of moon energy, big on moon energy, and the ascendant will soon reach Sirius. So this is a good time to honor Sirius as the brightest sun. Well, Sirius is very good for granting wishes. It's actually marking off a new year when Sirius is beginning to rise. I'm not sure if it is rising right now in the skies, but Sirius is basically a bit of a wish granter and protection. Very, very benevolent. It is also the origin of very diverse cultures. Okay, we talk about cosmic cultures or cosmic species. It would be a bit, I don't know, weird words to use, but Sirius is associated with not the astrology, the planet and the consciousness associated with diversity. So it is, yes, associated as well with Isis, actual Isis, okay, just not the terror group Isis, okay. And upon the rising of Sirius, we usually take a look to see if it is bright. If it is dim, then this is Krasya teaching. If it is dim when we observe it, then as it first rises, then we need to see where is that astrocartography wise, because this means not so good news. And indeed, this year it was dimly rising, and it meant bad news for Europe. And we see the recruits and the mandatory army recruits that are almost there, with countries like even Finland and Sweden entering NATO, and we see the deportation of all the refugees because of the global various streams of fundamentalism. Okay, I will not even name it in a religion because this is not a representative of any sort of divinity or God or whatnot, and people who do believe in those divinities and gods and are not fundamentalists should not be suffering because of that. So, Ascendant on Sirius, and we're actually here to talk about a completely different configuration. And this is Saturn, Sun, and the Mercury meeting up. And so, yes, I addressed this briefly in my forecast, but you know, I'm doing these forecasts live with you, and of course, we have an eclipse on March, and we had a couple of things, a lot of new beginnings in February as well. So it was like, yes, there are all these things going up with Saturn that people consider as Saturn's death, but this is actually thanks to Twitter Astro that I was kind of returning to this conjunction again, and really understanding that it's quite rare, so much so that we have at least I didn't try, I admit, but people did not locate when was the last time that it happened. So this one is pretty rare. Yes, we're talking about personal planets with Saturn in Pisces conjuncting on triple conjunction on the 9th degree of Pisces. So this is what we're approaching. If we take it a little bit forward, February 28th, this is where we get this, and the moon is going to be in Libra. Yes, I'm not excited about the 22 here because the moon is faster moving, okay? For those who follow my degree information. What I am not excited, but not so excited about is the fact that Jupiter, the ruler, will be on 11th degree. And I will address this, and I understand that this is why I chose to speak about this when the ascendant was on 11th degree Cancer. And the Mars will be on 11 degrees Aquarius. Okay? And Mars, of course, will be squaring Jupiter, but on a degree that is a bit frictional, electrically frictional. Yes, is big degree. And also in the background we still have Chiron Rahu, 17 degrees Aries, and they conjunct. So Mars is ruling Chiron Rahu conjunction. This compilation makes this not only rare in the triple conjunction, which is rare enough, but also in the complexity of the factors involved into this triple conjunction, and I will try to cover as much of it as possible. This is a very compacted, it's like trying to speak German and pushing all the consonants together, okay, but without vowels at all, and these are big words. Here we have a huge sentence, and the sentence begins here. Okay, so we have Saturn in Pisces. We know it. It's here for a couple of, yes, I think at least until 2025. It's here. And we have the Sun. Yes, before Mercury, we have the Sun conjuncting Pisces. Conjuncting Saturn happens every year, this time in Pisces. Okay, so Sun conjuncting Saturn happens every year in Pisces. Oh, a bit more, because Saturn itself, it takes 28 years to go through a sign. So the Sun will conjunct Pisces 3 times when Saturn is in Pisces. Okay, all in all, happened before. But to this conjunction we have Mercury. And again, Mercury is moving fast. Also, Mercury will conjunct Saturn, even in Pisces, at least twice or even 3 times, because it is just moving so fast. But still, the 3 of them together, all in 1 degree, is extremely rare. Okay, mathematically, just add 1 more factor to the set of possibilities. Okay, even if you do it mathematically and you just do it with probability, you don't know anything about astrology, then a little bit, if you could computate like machine learning, then you would know that Mercury is not getting more than I think 30 degrees or 45 degrees from the Sun. So you know that Mercury is close to the Sun, so that gives us a little bit more probability. But still, we did not have it for probably at least a couple of centuries. And that is why it is very significant, even though the planets involved, except for Saturn, are very fast moving. Okay, the Sun goes 1 year across the zodiac, Mercury about the same time, a little bit less, a little bit more. It's just pretty much around the Sun. But to this sentence, we have a ruler. The ruler is in Taurus. It has to be somewhere. And this ruler makes a hard aspect, an exact hard aspect, an on the degree hard aspect with Mars in Aquarius. And it's a square, it's a manifesting. Okay, so now this sentence becomes a bit more complicated. And it is complicated not because of Jupiter. Jupiter rules this triple conjunction all on the same degree. It's complexity in itself. It rules Sagittarius. We've got nothing in Sagittarius. There's no need to worry. But when we look at Mars in Aquarius is ruling a Scorpio, which is here with vertex. Yes, not much going in Scorpio, tropical zodiac I'm using, and Aries. And so in Aries, we have another one, which is extremely rare as well. And this is Rahu Chiron conjunction in 17 degrees Aries. Why am I saying extremely rare? Yes, of course, when, Chiron takes 50 years to surround the zodiac, okay? Yes, we do have, it's not extremely rare like the triple conjunction. But to have Chiron with Rahu, I began to explore the combination of Kahu. I think Kahu is a great word for this, of Chiron Rahu on a mundane level around eclipses, and even not eclipses directly, it was big, okay? It was nuclear big, yes. If we combine, let's say, the chart of the city or the country with such a Rahu crossing Chiron or Chiron crossing Rahu, Ketu, yes, Ketu or Rahu, those are big. The silencing of the atomic veterans for 50 years was also occurring around such Chiron cycle, and I think it was also, yes, it was around Aries when 1973 had the silencing of the veterans. We have in the Middle East, but for sure the veterans were not silenced only in the Middle East. It was basically an oil crisis, okay, on a global level, much like what we are having right now, okay, an energy crisis. So I'm not saying Chiron Rahu symbols energy crisis, although Chiron has to do with energy healing of the physical body in the natal chart. It is not impossible that on a mundane level we would see such thing, okay? Yes, as I'm saying, I'm not saying this, I'm like, yes, this could be a delineation, okay? The Chiron Rahu gives us a bit of a crisis around Chiron issues. On a personal level, it's how do I create my own medicine, okay? With Chiron, wherever Chiron is in your chart, you will see that the solutions that both shamans and conventional medicine will give to your problem that you are dealing with, whether it's psychological or physical or whatever, you will see that it will all be like Swiss cheese. Okay, you have to fill in the gaps, including astrological consultation. If you come to me to have consultation for your Chiron, I can say inherently, because it is Chiron, some of what I say is good to you, some of what I say, if you apply it, is actually bad to you. You are making the own medicine. You are like a new shaman. Okay, so in this way you're like a new shaman, so I can only teach you what I've been doing, and it will apply to you. Partially, if you apply it, it actually get worse. And so this is where you build your own medicine for you, but it will also be able to help other people. Again, partially, they will still have to do it themselves, especially in Aries, which is the sign of autonomy, of the something new, the head of the baby. And every baby that comes to the world is basically a whole new world, right? So there's only so much we can generalize upon when we talk about individuals. This friction between Mars bearing the Chiron Rahu stamp, okay, and Jupiter bearing the Saturn Mercury Sun conjunction stamp in Taurus, is yet another level of complexity. What it tells me is, okay, first of all, that the event in Pisces is going to be at friction with the event in Aries. Okay? And what are we looking for in Aries? Let's begin with the easy sentence. What we are looking for in Aries is to create a new type of energy to sustain on a personal level. How do I sustain myself energetically? So it can be the food that I eat, the workout that I do, the identity that I hold as well. Okay? And for each person, there is a big desire to tackle this issue. And depending on the house, okay, it could be your finances, it could be your relationships, it could be your career. Okay, you're trying something new, you want to go there. You really want to try something new, you really want to take action. This is the good thing about it. You really want to take action, you might not be able to. Or, now that we get to the bigger sentence, this action might be blocked. Okay? But not completely blocked. It is a friction. Friction is not completely blocking you. A friction, it tells you that there is tension between two elements. There are two people arguing and they're in tension. So Mars is ruled by this Saturn. We have another strong Saturn and a strong Jupiter. Mars is usually actually ruling of the young soldiers, not the youth, but more like young men, or the entrepreneur, or the energy that breaks through things. Okay, Saturn is more the older people, but when Mars is in Saturn sign, we basically can talk about veterans a lot, okay? Seasoned warriors. Big talk of seasoned warriors. And this is in friction with another part of this sentence, which is Jupiter in Taurus. The issue here at the 11th degree is issue of the use of electricity, waves, and their effect on land. For example, you can use sound waves to cool a city, but then the question is, how will it affect your neural system? Okay? You can use solar energy, but then does it also create a little bit of a global warming? Yeah, because you draw the energy of the sun into these big black, piles, and then of course it has effect on our ecosystem and so on and so forth. So on the world, we can expect a friction around new forms of energy, which energies to imply, but Mars and Aries also rule new type of a weapon, and wave-based weapon, but we are talking about a Saturn that is in Pisces and the Jupiter that is in Taurus. Pisces is the ocean, Taurus is the land, but the fixed land, okay? Not the Virgo land, which is a mutable land, but a fixed land, okay? This is the farm, this is, the land that you settle on, this is the land that you, this is the yard that you go to every day. It's not by the sea necessarily, okay? And so it is very strange to have this combination, because there is something that is to do with oceans but also to do with land. What can it be? and something to do with energy and electricity, but also aviation. 11th degree is also to do with aviation. Now we talked about hacking into aviation systems. Yes, giving orders to pilots that are not related and guiding them to land in an enemy airport or enemy territory. Okay, such things that were happening in the world. Those occurred around, I think, the Mars-Pluto conjunction, but they are also associated with the 11th degree. So we can talk about aviation. Venus rules cars and means of transportations to connect things, okay? It's not necessarily to get from point A to point B, but to connect things. And so the type of transportation that is meant to connect us, let's say with our families, reuniting with the families, also shipping, connecting markets, okay? Yes, markets is Mercury, which is involved, but the bringing together is Venus. And so there is a friction between, let's say, shipping, okay? There's your business, there's my business, I want stuff from you, maybe you want to send me stuff, and it's usually no problem, we do shipping. Now, there maybe because of hacking, because of such events, electricity, even power cuts. Okay, Pluto is also co-present in Aquarius, which is ruled by this Saturn in Pisces. There's going to be things changing, delays. And so there is a desire to try a new form of energy, but it is in friction with traveling from one land to another, or the yield, the agricultural yield of the land, which is also Jupiter Taurus. We had big fruits, everything big, everything sweet, okay? And so, Jupiter in Taurus, for example, can give us a lot of big sweet fruits and abundance of those, but then there is the nervous system, okay, that sometimes is too much. The brain runs on sugar, but too much can also be too much of a good thing, kind of friction, and Mars rules inflammation in the nervous system. So it can be something as simple as that, but on a personal level, but definitely because of the friction between Mars and Jupiter, I expect a big event also to do, yes, with war. So I don't necessarily say somebody's going to drop a nuke. What I do say is that certain types of hacking, anything that crosses oceans, okay, is subjected to certain type of hacking. The difficulties with new means of energy, for example, the solar energy was to transport and conserve and transport the energy. So there maybe are even hidden attempts to do this, to solve this technological problem. It's probably not a problem, but this is what we are exposed to, this is what we know. And there can be these hackings that are interfering with such solutions. Okay. Now, if we zoom into this Saturn Sun, what people call the death of Saturn, okay, Saturn Sun, well, Saturn gets an update from the Sun. People say the death of Saturn, but basically the Sun is dying, is born anew. It's getting an update. And Saturn is about structures, it's about procedures, it's about also both the structures that are by the book and the structures that are outside. So you think about the neurotypical structure versus the neurodivergent structure. So you think about the regulations, because we want, let's say you are having a workplace and you want to adapt to neurodivergent people. So Saturn would also be making it a regulation that your business has to be adaptive to people, let's say, that have noise sensitivity and cannot be in a room with everyone, um, and so on and so forth, okay? So a noise sensitivity is actually a big deal, okay? Sensory sensitivity, especially sound waves, is a big deal because Jupiter is in the sign of Venus, which is the voice. So, and Mars in the sign of, okay, Aquarius, but Saturn is also ruling Aquarius, is ruling Capricorn. There's nothing in Capricorn, but there's plenty in Aquarius. So it's the type of regulations that we do to adapt to irregular situations, okay? A lot of air learning, a lot of regulations regarding what is divergent to the typical system, okay? So what do we consider anarchistic, but also neurodivergent? Um, there can be the funny way to try to regulate these situations. So let's say Saturn also rules refugees, especially in Pisces, traveling long distances, and in a way that you kind of surrender this. So usually it's not a soul going on a quest, it can be, but it's usually a situation where there is some loss or some war and people escape or are evacuated and they become refugees and so on. So let's say the neurodivergent or refugee, okay? They cannot sleep in a bed with many people in the shelter. You will have a mass shooting, okay? It's not sie klappt nicht, okay? It doesn't work. Yes, or the neurodivergent, yes, the neurodivergent immigrant, okay, as well. Where is, especially, where are your books? Where are your documents? Where are your this? Where are your that? It's like, we had to flee war, darling. I'm not Rothschild. I don't have the money to copy all of these things and come here. Okay? But this is also, Saturn as the ruler of Aquarius is also the ruler of science and the scientific paradigms as well as the astrological paradigms. So we're going to be seeing some slight changes, at least in the way we do astrology and the way we do science. One of the things we talk about the refugees, okay, or kidnapped people, which is also Neptune ruled. One of the things in which we, for example, I'll give the example of Me Too, because in Me Too we had such tremendous change, and this was, up until then, for every felony, it was the moral thing to do that you must make sure that you don't blame someone without having all the evidence, okay? And you don't make them bad name. But what happened with the nature of sexual violence, a felony, and the typical power relation issue between those who are hurt and those who are hurting? And by the way, in gender studies department, those were men, cisgender men hurt by cisgender women. Okay, so this is hierarchical power issue. And what happened was that the regulations jurisdically began to change, because you cannot require the impossible in a felony that hurts the ability to have a speech, that hurts the ability, not only in terms of the power relation, but also in terms of the offense, okay, sex chakra, root chakra, that hurts the ability of a person to do well on those lower chakra issues, like land, like housing, and also hurts the ability of a person like to make a living in themselves, and many other things. And so speaking is actually a part of healing. Sometimes you cannot force a person to speak, but it's actually a type of healing. And so if the person speaks out, there is not much that can be done, because they have to heal, they have to get this out of their system in order to not become an offender or to unalive themselves, okay? It is energy, it needs to build. And so the regulations have to change. And then we had the issue with the cancel culture. Okay, so it's kind of flipped over, and then had the cancel culture. So there was a new way of balancing things so that these people will not either kill themselves or become like big offenders because to silence someone that was hurt from violence and to isolate them in that way, we know that this is what breeds those types of attacks we saw in 7 October, we saw in 11 September, those type of big things to recruit the people who will press the button. It takes a lot of torturing of these people and silencing of and isolating of these people. So either they lose hope and alive themselves, or they give, no, you get one way to do this power now. Everybody who didn't believe you, everybody who thought you were imagining, they are all going to be living in the big houses and so on that they are building in the cities. So a person can feel like this is the only means to have power, and not power over others. It's just that any proximity to power. Okay. And yes, if you talk about how do people recruit the people, it's not that they recruit people that are passionate about doing this. It's that they go through such tortures, and this is about what these things are about. Okay, it's either you die or you cooperate with that much terror. Why? Because it helps people get more, get more gold here with sun, get more oil, get more assets, and that's the way of doing that, and recruiting slaves basically to do so. So now we are all at the brink of another such case, just the Saturn Sun, okay, where some sort of regulations need to be changed. And if we talk about refugees, it's very much like what happened in Me Too, but actually implementing it all across the board, okay? And the issue is that the nature of such acts, to kidnap people, whether for medical experiments or whatnot, it requires a lot of secrecy, organization of the structure, destroying evidence, creating confusion about the narratives, but also creating multiple traumas. Okay, this is how these things are created. And so scientifically, the people who, let's say, manage to survive this or want to report such thing, they will not able to be sending you documents, okay, or photos, or we saw that the many articles that we did manage to see of the journalists arrested who tried to cover the evacuation of 10 cities in the United States. Okay, and if you go to abandoned houses, abandoned places, and such channels, you will see that suddenly they will show something that's very recent, like a city or a village where all the houses, it seems very clear, and all the houses are suddenly evacuated, and we don't know what happened there. Sometimes it's just houses sitting there because they cannot sell it, like in Detroit. But sometimes it is other things that we just don't know about and it's not covered. There was also oil leakage, I think, in US that was just going under the radar. So for you to get such information, you have to really, really flexion up what do we call in philosophy of science the standards for empiricism, okay, the epistemic standards for empiricism, varying from Larry Loudon, 1990s, Larry Loudon. And so when we have rigid epistemic standards for empiricism, it's not bad, but it's not something that is useful. For example, when we are talking about such offenses where on the scale Libra, where one person is isolated, kidnapped, going through experiments, and going through horrors, and there's no way to means of communication with the world. And if they manage to escape, They cannot even talk about such thing to anyone. They think they're because they will call for help, and the same people who are they're supposing to help them are doing it again, and that's how they got there. So of course this person won't be able to show you photographs, to show you evidence, to change your paradigm when you have a rigid epistemic standards for empiricism. Okay, so we cannot require such a standard on the scale if we are to do something about it. All these people calling, oh, I don't want to comply with genocide. Okay, the actual things that are beyond genocidal that are happening, people don't even know of, because the epistemic standards for empiricism that they hold do not even allow the entrance of information. Okay, that to be, and if everywhere there's like misinformation, this is shadow banned, this is this, this is that, then your ability to acquire information, you really have to flex on your epistemic standards for empiricism. And then this is, of course, another issue, because if you are kidnapped, they are telling you nobody is looking for you. If you go to the train, we are working in the train. We make problems if you drive without ticket on the train. And so only when you get out of there, you actually been arrested for ticket on the train. Not arrested, but then you say, listen, let's say I'm homeless, you cannot say the whole truth. Then sometimes they tell you, well, I'm not allowed to tell you this, but you're not supposed to pay. Here I write the number like this or that this is the case for you, and you just keep this and you go. Some of your shelters maybe can cancel this. Of course, it is a problem, especially if you are a woman. But we have both sides of the problem, okay? When the people are kidnapped, they're being told that pretty much everyone is going to be against them and make them problems, so that they will not seek help. While when people are not told such a thing, when you say, oh, it's nobody even makes them scared of this, then they go to seek help, and the help is actually taking them back to where they were running from. Okay, so Saturn is really about the discussions of what do we require as scientific evidence that somebody is a spy, somebody is a kidnapped, somebody is a refugee, okay, not a work immigrant. It's the same, by the way. Okay, like working immigrants are expats. The rest of them are refugees. This is another and Saturn is really this reality check, but it's also the reality check on health care and the welfare itself. Saturn Pisces is welfare. I don't remember who said welfare. I think it was Patrick Watson, but I think he said that in a course, not in an open lecture. So this is a very good point to remember. Saturn Pisces is also a welfare. Saturn is both the reality check on the welfare system and welfare employees, but not only for the bad. For example, sometimes employees are given better wages and better and shortening working conditions. However, it can be with the pitfall that you have to work for these places that kidnap people, okay? So and then you have a very weird mix. So Saturn getting an update is basically Saturn and the Sun discussing. Sun is telling Saturn, look, this is what the whole year was about. I was shining the light on the whole thing. We are now in Pisces. So this is shipping, this is oceans, this is refugees, this is poets, this is channelers, energy healers. This is also astrologers. This is your welfare. This is your social worker. This is psychiatry, okay? Drugs and the brain. Drugs in the brain, okay? So legislation of psychedelics, stuff like that. So we're going to see a conglomerate of things that are in themselves very complex just by this Saturn death. So if we talk about, let's say, the COVID vaccines and the class lawsuits against Moderna and Pfizer winning, those type of updates can be. Sun is also shedding light. It's a luminary, and it's a projecting luminary. So it's projecting its light. We're going to see a lot of light shed on many things. So the moon is exposing by reflection. Okay, let's say moon with the sun will tell you of the nature of Saturn. Sun with moon with Saturn, sun with the Saturn, it will expose Saturn in a different light. It will show Saturn not as the reflection. It doesn't expose by reflecting somebody, but more by shedding light. This can absolutely be leaking of information. And we're talking about something visual, words that you can see. If you think about words that you can see, and now I'm already bringing Mercury into the mix. Mercury is children, it's trade. It's children trade, it's trade in children. Okay? What's the difference between blue ivy and the gold miners in Congo? Yes, there is also this problem. It's not just the genocide. I talk about 6 million people dead, probably more as I'm speaking, maybe even 1 million more, I don't know. Mercury, of course, is markets, and Saturn is about accumulation of things. So if there was a bubble, we can expect it to burst. Mercury is also ruling digital stuff. Like I said, a lot of communication interruptions and stuff like that. Mercury Pisces is in general very weird. Okay, you try to speak to someone, have a conversation to someone when you are both swimming in the ocean. That's Mercury. This is the literal to talk about. I have actually seen the Twitter posts on explain astrological concept in memes. This is so much Mercury Pisces. So I just had an idea for another meme. Okay, just Mercury Pisces itself. Two people having a conversation in the freaking ocean. How do fish communicate? So, thank you. And when we bring that with, before Sun even, we bring that with Saturn, then we are talking about ending communication, Saturn, or grounding, establishing. Okay, Saturn is where you get married as much as where you get divorced. Okay, it's a new chapter. It can also be things related to that of all things Mercury. So we talk about communication, talk about journalists, we talk about children, we talk about traders, a trading system. Some digital coins can perish. And again, it shouldn't be too dramatic. Okay, there's like, I'm not necessarily talking like about Bitcoin. I'm talking about like the new things that came up in the past year or so. So some of them do not stand the test of time. Okay, it's kind of like a test of time. Some paperwork. Okay, maybe some paperwork needs to be done, but also changing the requirement. Can you require a passport? I can say, for example, I talked about my credit card story that in the COVID I had to flee a certain connection that got unhealthy. You know, it is a freaking pre-world war, so I'm not judging anybody. I just had to be safe. It's okay. But I couldn't have my own credit card sent to my own address. And not only was it maybe risky for me to change like the address, but also it was impossible because offices were not really cooperating, and I could fly actually with my other passport, with my Dutch passport, or an emergency Israeli one. Yes, and that was the case. Okay, usually I cannot get out of Israel without Israeli passport. So the rules and regulations for COVID were changing. Okay, I did not have to have a passport to get in and out. of the same nationality. But when it came to receiving my credit card, it took only until the 7th of October. And every time the banker would come to me and say, oh, here, what about this? How about you? How are you doing? And so what about work? Because they are, they are stupid in this. They are smart in other things, but they're fortunately stupid in this. You don't want to be wise when it comes to, unhealthy relationships, but you also need to bridge the gaps without people going through traumas. And no, it's not advised to push on work in such situations, both because of susceptibility to unhealthy type of workplaces and people and relations, and because you need to freaking rest sometimes. Some people do it the opposite, okay? They actually want to work and so on, and that helps them. So it's different for different people. But then after the war, the lady comes to me in another branch, and she says, listen, do you want our credit card? I tell her, the problem is so and so and so. And she said, yes, but now after the war, we can send it to your address. And they did it. They found a solution. Okay? They found a solution. This is just the type of Saturn Mercury. Mercury is also your credit card. It's a technological, your credit card is a technological device, okay? It has a chip on already. It's a technological device that exchanges money, okay? And once they get that, then Saturn Mercury can also be the attempt to apply digital credit system. Is it like the CBDC? I predict before the Jupiter-Uranus, we're not going to have a full-blown CBDC. The Jupiter-Uranus will actually, I believe, especially on the 22nd degree, I'm getting louder here, I don't know why, will be used to kill, to murder, okay, the fiat money. Now there are actually thoughts to make the digital coin dependent on the gold so that it will be more stable. The problem is with how we make gold, okay? It's still those children in Congo, it's still those Burkina Faso children dying, raped under, literally caving under the cave. And so, you want to have your economy based on that. It's going to be very difficult for people to maintain wealth, because this is an energy of death to your bank account. We all deal with that. We are all dealing with that with the fiat as well, but with the gold is a problem because it's not ethically mined gold. Yes. And here is where we have a little bit of friction, because changes to both what we consider facts have to be made. It's not realistic to ask for a people that had a type of felony that damages their ability to have clear speech on the short run, especially not in the beginning. They need to speak, and you need to listen. And when you listen, they are more able to form speech. Okay, and this is how it's done, by the way. Okay, this is, people say Jesus miraculously healed people. Some of the cases, if it was speech related, it would be listening, truly listening, being there, being present. And since he had this ability to do so, this miraculous ability to do so, then people recovered from many, many ailments because of this. Yes, I'm not saying only these. It's also other things, like probably a type of a shaman. But you cannot require you cannot wait until you will have all this evidence, okay, before you save the people who are in life risk from atrocities. Yes, so this is a very big issue, and now it is refugees. It is refugee spies, kidnapped people, medical warfare. So I want you to also think about the medical ethics. You could do experiments in humans in the case where it is terminal ailment or acoustic ailment. So mental ailments actually are one of that a type of branch of medicine which you can do experiments in human beings, which is allowed to do so. Heart diseases, especially talk about heart attack, and of course cancer. If you wonder why cancer is so preserved, it's because it is a venue for making experiments in human beings. And while this is a loophole in the ethics that is basically made to save lives, okay, this is how you get innovation in medicine. You don't get innovation in medicine by testing people for, by treating people who are, sneezing a little bit. You do this when you can have a free hand to try many other things that you wouldn't otherwise try. And this is the terminal and acoustic cases where, hey, this person is heading to death unless you interfere. Now you can come in with your either essential oils, and I'm speaking as aromatherapist, okay? Or your weird technological stuff or chips or whatnot, and try many things. The issue is, as with any innovation, and Aries is ruling innovation, the ruler of innovation is also the ruler of war. So if you talk about frontiers of science, these are actual frontiers, and this is actual medical warfare. And so we get the economy of scientific advancement in the fields of medicine, this basically creating big crises and big acoustic situations and basically making experiments in humans. And then saying, oh, now we can implement this and that and so on. So, and we have, and when you talk about rigorous epistemic standards for empiricism, we talk about basically how do you know that you know, and you want to make sure you rigorously search the topics. Well, my darlings, for statistic analysis, you need at least 30 cases. So if you talk about world wars and their effect on humanity, okay, that's what's up. And so there is a tension between the value of autonomy, especially physical, territorial, okay, it's Taurus, and connections, which is Venus bringing things together, and the desire to have a rigorous research that will tell you indefinitely that this is because of this and this is because of that. You will see a lot of gaslighting as to the methoda, of course. Anybody who knows even a little bit about any scientific thought already has seen this. The C factors are abundant when it comes to what they market as life-saving, but they are non-existent. The C factors are abundant by everybody tell you is not from the pill when they market as what they think we will just take and say, oh, thank you, and die in crook, and nobody will even know. But they are non-existent when we say, okay, let's eliminate this very drug that we are trying and see if my situation improves. This usually is not accepted, and this cannot be from the pill, the shot, the this, the that. Okay? In Hebrew is something nice. The word for bullet and the word for a pill is the same word. It's called kadur. Okay, so if this is from the kadur, it's from the bullet and from the pill. So I guess Americans will appreciate the double and oh God, how do you say that? Entendre. So yes. So like I said, there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack in this. It's just not just a triple conjunction, but also all those other things. Mercury, Soul, Saturn. So we're talking about scandals to do with leadership, but also the type of leadership that could be orthodoxy. Sun, Saturn is orthodoxy, Sun is leaders. Orthodox leaders, thoughts of monarchy. Okay, the connection between religion, Jupiter, orthodoxy, Saturn. Okay, religion is not orthodoxy. Yeah, I think it was in Twitter I used the difference between saying mashallah and thinking that practicing jihad is to go ahead and murder people with the flag of the opposition of the party that you're representing. But whatever. Okay, it's not that any other country did not do at least as stupid things in their history. Jupiter is saying mashallah. Okay, Saturn Pisces is a freaking jihad, or alternatively, okay, if Jupiter is too optimistic, Saturn is the reality check. Hey, your religion is not just about this peaceful this and that and that. Hey, your religion is also about these crusades, that Inquisition. Recently I saw a video about a Muslim slave that was kidnapped from Africa and brought to Christian America. Okay, but you understand that Africa was not always Muslim, right? Yes, it's turned into this Muslim in some way. Palestine, of course, or at least the Palestinians. A lot of them are Jews, by the way, so it was called a Meir. And now, the Sun Saturn can be thoughts about religion, monarchy, patriarchy, setting a reality check on all of those, but as well shedding new light on all of those. It's a big, intricate discussion. 11 degree, yes, is also to do with the suicide, and again with Saturn Pisces, just Saturn Pisces. Saturn is also ending life. It can also be suicide. There is a different evaluation. Okay, if the treatment to if looking at the concept of a suicide was suicide ideation, okay, in a place where some villages are slaughtered and people are tortured and CIA agents get cyanide pill again, then suicide is actually can be thought of as death with dignity, and it's not this crazy, disoriented thought. But also Saturn is history and being looking at things in retrospective. So looking retrospectively at all these times that people perhaps were sensing some things that were going around the world, or things that are to be planned, and this affected them and they did not know to diagnose what it is. Neptune and Pisces is about the type of, not diseases, is the things that are difficult to diagnose, okay? Because to call this disease is a bit misleading. Yes, that people are planning a world war, and your newborn child is about to be recruited in 18 years, and something bugs you and you're concerned about, but you don't know what it is, and you don't know what is it that you say. Okay, this is not a disease. This is a situation that is happening in the world. So a lot of reality checks, but also a lot of attempts to restrict, because this is, again, Saturn is in all its workings. A lot of, and you see Venus is still in Aquarius. So remember when Venus was in Sagittarius and we had this Mars-Jupiter issue, and we had this Saturn kind of sextile in Jupiter. And I told Aquarian people, listen, you really gotta listen to Venus this time, because you really are in the situation where Venus and Jupiter are ruling right now, and not Saturn. Now Saturn has more of a thing to say, okay? So the critic has a point now. And so if you are Aquarius, you could be tapping into a little bit more of what is going on. But this can also be done by tapping to your Aquarius house. Your Aquarius house knows what's up, okay? So let's say it's you like me or Pisces ascendant, and the Aquarius house is the 12th house. One way that they can take, before I'll talk about, sometimes people go like, is there a point that I should be saying about this? I don't know. But before that, there is the Nicholas Stoyanovich technique to tapping into the 12th house. You close yourself in the room. Okay? Close yourself in the room and you are at the 12th house. Close yourself in the bedroom and you're in the double whammy 12th house. Close yourself in your hotel room and you're in the 12th. Just make sure you check the mirrors, which I actually saw an episode about. Close yourself in a place, then you tap into your 12th house, okay? Or isolate yourself in some place. And so 12th house does not have to be too enclosed, okay? It depends on the 12th house itself, but it does mean that you are isolated in some ways. You go to a place in nature, it's isolated, you're exiled, you're also at the 12th house. So this can help you tap into the energies, but also thinking about jails, thinking about mental health. When you actually tend to these issues, this is your 12th house. And so whatever you think about this, whatever you learn more about this, then, and you need to see where Saturn, natal Saturn is in your chart, if that's the case for you, then this is where you're gonna know what's up before everybody does. Okay, when the COVID vaccines came, I did take the first 2 shots because there was a baby in the neighborhood. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna F with that. But probably I shouldn't have. Okay, today I wouldn't have. Even if the price that there will not be around that baby if they don't agree, but I will not do this. Hey, what about me having babies, right? And so because I knew the mental health system a little bit, I understood immediately what they are doing with the vaccine. The minute I had also issues with my own menstruation, when the doctor was telling me, oh, it cannot be because of this, I already knew this, okay? I already knew this. So, I wasn't too of course I was still pissed, but I wasn't too let down. I understood that the world of medicine right now is just going through what the world of mental health was going through for decades. This is Aquarius. This is the power of Aquarius, because your Aquarius house is the type of Saturn that is outside of the system. In Pisces, you know something, but you channel it and you don't have a way to In Aquarius, you have a scientific argument for what you say. And you know this ahead of time. You know what's up. So tap into your Aquarius house. This is where we should all be listening to Aquarius. Again, I'm saying this is Saturn, Venus, and Sol. What I get with this Jupiter close to my sun right now is I just want to eat sweets all the time. Not sweets, but particularly chocolate. I keep thinking, oh, I'm probably before my moon days. And then there's a week and I'm like, okay, that was not the moon days. What's happening? Oh, it's Jupiter getting closer to my sun. Okay, now I just want to eat all the sweets and indulge myself. And I'm like, okay, it's not, that's not what's up. But now I understand that it's not my Sun and Venus that has the upper hold, but actually I need to tap into my Aquarius house, because my Aquarius house now knows more than what this Jupiter is doing, because it's the source. What this Jupiter is doing is elaborating on whatever this Saturn is doing. Saturn ruling Aquarius, okay, in Jupiter sign, Jupiter in Venus sign, Venus in Aquarius. That means everything begins and ends with Aquarius. Your Aquarius house, you know what's up. For me, if it's the 12th house, Everything begins and ends with the mental health. Okay, they tried all these experiments in the mental health. Now they're taking it to other fields of medicine. Everybody taking beta blockers. Okay, this is total loss. Everybody's doing it all across the board. You got cancer, beta blockers. You got heart disease, beta blockers. You got a crisis, so you must be a bit crazy. Beta blockers. Why? My boss treated me bad. Oh, probably you're imagining. But we'll just say, oh, isn't it terrible? Here we have a pill for the beta blockers. Well, you give it antipsychotic? Oh, don't mind that. Don't mind that. Don't mind that. Okay, we'll remove the stigma for you. You can have whatever, no stigma, as long as you take these beta blockers. Okay, so that's what's up right now. They had the SSRIs, then they had the mood stabilizers. Okay, and then they began to throw in the deep stuff. Now they're going psychedelics, but not the type of psychedelics you do, but other type of psychedelics you might not want to do. So this is the issue. So it began there, now it goes all across the board. Yes? And so all across the board, you're given something that the only way for you to understand what is this thing that you are given, if it's still written on the box, okay, it might be right. Olanzapine, what is that? Atypical beta blocker, whatnot. And you're like, okay, beta blocker, it blocks this thing, that, and that, so you won't have a heart attack. Yes, but you also won't have contraction before you're about to have a heart attack. You're just crook. Okay, nobody's gonna do this, so we don't know what's up. It's not from the shot. They also give it in shots. Okay, so before we had anything else, we had that one. Your Aquarius house knows what's up now. Your Venus house goes back to the Aquarius house, say, hey, it all began with you. What's up with that? And your Aquarius house, Lord, I'll tell you what's up. It all began with me. They were doing this and that and that. Let's say, I don't know, Aquarius is his second house for them Capricorn ascendants. Aquarius is his second house. They got a Capricorn ascendant at home. I gotta be careful. You wanted to be appreciated for your intellectual property. But the type of things that you have to say, because you see everything ahead of time, it will get you locked up. And so people try to make you like you're crazy. And but then either your ideas got plagiarized and were used, okay, for example, to plan an attack. You write a book, okay, so people write it to plan an attack. They do little changes here and there, they use it. And so there comes, I don't know, fifth house, your child or your lover. They say, you know what's up with me. I get these weird things, like ever since, I don't want to be uncomfortable, but ever since we met, I get these weird things that like people breaking into, like try to break into my computer or into, like try to interfere with my nervous system or this or that. Like you would probably, like you know about these things. So yeah, I know. People will tell me, I wrote the book. They've been trying to do this for a couple of decades to me. Well, let me tell you what this is. And let me tell you what it's about, okay? And so Aquarius for you has the knack for what's actually going on. Yes, the ruler is by Pisces, but there's a loop there that the Pisces, Aquarius, and Taurus, but even more so, the Pisces, Sag, Aquarius, even slightly Capricorn, and Libra, Taurus, okay, those that are ruled by Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus, they know what's up. Your Mars house is a little less. It's not that they're not smart, but it's a different type of, you got to get fact-checked. Actually, I have a Scorpio 9th house, and I got fact-checked. Not fact-checked by the fact-checker. The person was like, hey, look at this data. No, Qatar is not about the oil, but actually their ability to leverage the weapon industry. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And they show me an actual source that is more reliable than anything else they could have shown me to the best of my knowledge. So I'm like, hey, I was stand corrected. I need to look at other places to analyze Qatar. Makes sense. Okay, and then I saw the weapon thingy when I was doing the astrological chart as well. But your Scorpio house can be fact checked, and it's okay. This is what it is. Why Mars is in Aquarius, to do this fact checking. Okay, there is your inner instinct, your inner gut. It must be this, but you're still right in essence. But the details around this and the fields that you should be looking, the fields of science, because Scorpio is narrow scope, thinking deeply, and Aquarius is more global, it's all across the board. It can give you these two, they are squaring each other, but if you hold that dissonance for a little bit, you can gain a lot from this Aquarian insight. And Mars is ruling Chiron and Rahu. So there's something you desire to do, desire to try, but you don't have the all the details that you need to do that. Saturn is about getting the person who has the know-how, which is Aquarius. Okay, our man is Aquarius right now, even if it's a woman. They are going through an update. So what I suggest you to do right afterward, right at the 29th, check up with your Aquariuses. They're going to know it all. I'm going to be watching. I'm gonna be watching Brennan. I'm gonna be watching Lada when it's astrology, but not only. Who are the Aquarius people in your life? They're gonna get an update. They're gonna get a eureka. But also, your Pisces ascendants, they feel it on their body. My energy right now, my energy levels, I wanted to write a post about it. I wasn't even able to write a tweet. It was like the ruler of my 6th soul and the ruler of my 12th are meeting at my 1st. It is so draining. And you know, as a person who's been through Uranus in her 2nd house and her 1st house, I know what I need to eat. I know what I need to do. I know what I do. I know what I do. Everything is mixing into this pile of goo. There's my consciousness. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with that? Mind, pardon the F word, but what am I doing with that? Feels like, oh, I'm losing grip. Well, of course, these two, again, my mental health and my physical health are meeting for an update. So the way that I have been tending to that needs to change. Suddenly, for example, the kittens that I had yesterday, they went out. Usually they go out and they go in. They went out and they loved it. The weather was a bit warm. And they stayed outside the whole night. So it was like them, you know, kind of like the children left the nest. And, you know, today, one of them I already saw coming back. And I was like, okay, it's new phase. Even with my pets. Okay, it's a new phase. Now they were kittens. Now they want to play outside. And I have to, you know, I'm both happy that they can play outside. But it was a different thing. And there was an end to the poop in my bathroom, actually. They used to poop everywhere. And then they were pooping outside. So I was like, okay, that is an end of a chapter. Okay, when you do have pets, it alleviates a lot of the physical drainage because the physical drainage exists. But then there is also some joy attached to it that you wouldn't have if you wouldn't have a pet usually. So yes, this Saturn soul for the Pisces ascendant is felt in a very physical way. In a very physical way, okay? But the rejuvenation will also be felt in a very physical way. And so your Pisces ascendant, they will have the almost physical diagnosis of what's up. And when an issue is exposed, you see that these guys, they're going to feel like an energy block is being removed from their chakras. even if it happens on a global level. Okay? So the first thing I'll do is listen to the Aquarius ascendants, the Pisces ascendants. And then there is the 9th degree. Well, the number 9 is a number of completion. But then also it is a closing conjunction. Okay, it's the closing conjunction. It's an opening conjunction. So of course we're talking about completion, but that just adds more completion. The fact that I talked about the moon, which is associated with the number 9, is also completion. Okay, it's not degree theory. It's just numerology. And so we're talking about the completion of a certain cycle. Libra is going to be, yes, not so involved, but the moon will go over Ketu. So, moon is ruled by Venus, so moon will also be involved by the merit of its being in Libra, that is ruled by Venus, this ruled in Jupiter, this ruled by Saturn. Okay? A lot of intermixed cycles. And yes, this is the ending of something that is so old that we don't know how old it is as well. If we want to talk about when was the last triple conjunction of these planets in general and in Pisces, then we're talking about something to do with religion, with the means of communication, and Sun is also health as well, not just Pisces. Okay, Pisces is like the healthcare system, drugs and alcohol, addictions, illusion of medicine and medicine itself, the play of realities. And so the Sun is also a type of intelligence. Is the heart, is the eyes, vision, which of course is related to our health. Another big health center is the heart, and of course that manifests in our eyes as well. So big closing chapter for the medicines, the philosophy of medicines, the way we treat women in the medical field, but also refugees and stuff like that. Big chapter closing. And yes, children and women are very involved here. A very big cycle. Big cycles to do with a religion, monarchy, trade, children. Now, again, when I say big cycle ending, I'm not saying it's not a moral statement, because I honestly don't know how it will play out. Okay, this Saturn, this Aquarius here has more information, and it's hosting about Venus, that is ruling over Jupiter, Uranus, Ketu, and the Moon at the time of the perfection, and Mars, which is ruling over the Ketu Rahu. Okay, the way changes of eclipses happen in the world. You know, eclipses, they used to affect the kings, but now we're going to see another facet of those eclipses, because it's ruling over, Venus and Mars are ruling over the nodes. There's a big ending of how we do things with eclipses, how we see eclipses, and how we see changes from what was to what will be. To change the way we change is also seen here. Of course, it's a juncture of, it's a juncture of completion, trust, and fact-checking, more so than of opportunities. Okay, it doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities. It's just that opportunities are encompassed within a larger circle of the moon decreasing here, and this is more about completion. Plenty of completion stuff. What type of completion stuff? I don't know. Okay? Ketu is in Venus sign. Rahu is in Mars sign, but with Chiron. And we have Pluto that's still co-present in Aquarius, which is ruled by this Saturn. Okay? So Pluto's just entered Aquarius. It's young in years, it's got 2 decades, so I don't know what is ending. Okay? One thing, some clues, and usually around these transits we'll have some clues. So 2 times that the procession came in for me today. One in Hebrew, astrological group in Israel, and somebody asked about the age of Aquarius, and they asked a specific question. I don't even remember the question. And I said, what do we have about previous ages of Aquarius? And she said, well, it was around 26 plus minus years ago. 26,000, yes, years ago. The minor difference. Mercury Pisces. 26,000 years ago. Okay. And but on Twitter we were having another conversation. We actually have been having these conversations, I think, since Pluto was in Aquarius, and that was about somebody wrote on TikTok that tropical astrology is associated with the church. Okay, you see how Saturn, Sun, Jupiter here are so involved in Aquarius, and so. And using sidereal astrology, which is constellation based rather than time frame based, it's time frame, but by constellation and not by kind of like a division remote from the constellations today. And so they use constellations because it is, in their opinion, not related to church. And so astrologers were like, what are they doing? And there was astrology before, and that is not wrong. The thing is that the tropical and the sidereal astrology, they began at the same juncture where around 27 years ago, okay, the tropical, 27,000 years ago, the tropical zodiac was the same as the sidereal zodiac, but because of a phenomena that's called a precession, okay, they were becoming, okay, basically what happens is that the axis on which the Earth is tilting, I think it's in relation to the Earth, the axis in which the Earth is tilting became a little bit like the Pisa Tower, okay, but around the course of 27,000 years. And so the constellation, from the vantage point in which we on Earth see them, has moved so much so that when I say tropical Taurus, I mean mainly, not totally, but mainly sidereal Aries, right? Aries. Okay? I mean mainly, for example, I have a 24-degree Pisces ascendant. Sidereally, it's about 1 or 2 degrees Pisces ascendant. So it's still Pisces. So what that is 2 times in which astrology, time, Saturn, and Aquarius were mentioned, along with the precession of the equinoxes, that is a time frame of the 26 to 27,000 years, which basically lead us back to the age of Aquarius. In the age of Aquarius, the equinox was such that what we call today the tropical zodiac was in union with the sidereal zodiac. And so we now look at tropical astrology from the vantage point of seasons, okay, the change with the precession of the equinoxes, whereas sidereal astrology is like, these are the constellations. They also move, but that's the thing. And so, of course, if the sidereal astrology, what it is now is actually the one that has changed, because we haven't changed the time frame in tropical astrology since the sidereal astrology was the same as tropical astrology. But this is just nitpicking. The big issue is that what are the events we had around the age of Aquarius? I don't want to say that like we are ending the age of Aquarius with this transit. I'm not in any way like, I don't have any arguments. Okay, I haven't found when was that last conjunction, a triple conjunction. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. But we are definitely having an event that is related to the age of Aquarius, the precession of the equinoxes, the discussion on tropical and sidereal astrology per se. Something is ending here, and again, it might. This is Pisces land. We might not even sense it so much as like with our channelings, because this can be kind of like a cosmic event that is not yet, delving all that deeply to the physical, although Jupiter is in Taurus, but Venus is in Aries, in Aquarius, and this is tropical speaking. So something along these lines, okay? We're ending the cycle of something that is since the precession of the equinoxes 27,000 years ago in the age of Aquarius. Is it we are ending the age of Pisces and going to the age of Aquarius? I don't know. Who am I to say that? I don't know. But it's definitely an event that is tied in with those things. Now, on a mundane level, havoc. Okay? And this is in the shade of an eclipse, okay? So, what kind of havoc? I don't know. Surprising, yes. An attempt to assert autonomy with a lot of failed army? Absolutely. Is this the type of chaos they want to throw in so kind of like the Jupiter Uranus on the 22nd will be the seal all for like the digital social credit score? Probably. That being said, if we are indeed in an event that takes us from the cycle of since we were in the age of Aquarius to re-enter in the age of Aquarius, okay, we're going to talk about also changes in the precession of the equinoxes. Why were there changes? Was there like a nuclear holocaust? I don't know. Okay, because that's what's up. So we're talking about the different type of cosmology. We're talking about the cosmos. Is it like a comet? That I don't know. I'm not here to say this. Hey, doom and gloom is coming. No, I have no idea what is coming. Very little. I have no idea what's going to be. So, but I do have a clue that it's going to be something that is of quite that significance, and as well might be not felt in a particular way we would expect it to feel. You want to think about the big event, okay? Big event. There are events in our life that we expect to be big and to be felt as big, but they happen, and we don't really feel that they were all that big, okay? And there are events in my life we didn't expect them to be that big, and they were huge. And then there are things that happened in our life. We don't think that they were that meaningful, but then a year later, a decade later, a this later, a that later, they're really meaningful. So this can appear as all, there's going to be in all of them. Okay? Um, when I think about an event that I didn't know how meaningful would be in my life is when I came to my instructor back in academia, and I said, well, for a for a history of philosophy framework, I actually want the guy that was misinterpreted when he said that when it comes to new modes of science, there's kind of like everything goes, the everything goes guy. And then he said to me, well, me as an MD, because he also was MD, when I see a patient and I read Feyerabend, this was Feyerabend, then I don't know how to treat a patient, okay? Yes, now I think closing half a decade, that's more than 7-8 years after I can, no, a decade, we're closing a decade from this sentence that sent me to do philosophy of medicine and learn about the medicines in general way before COVID. I can say to him, Professor Filk, I cannot tell you how to treat a patient. Nobody can. The illusion that you think that you have a prescription for how to treat a patient is going to for sure work, other than to listen to the patient and try and see together what's up. This is the best offer I can have. Maybe after this transit I'll have more. I don't know. But not reading Feyerabend is not taking the problem away. It's casting an illusion that you have a sort of method to go by. Just more for your sense of, you know, trying to do the right thing than actually attending to the reality of medicine. There is where the unit of analysis is an autonomous human being. There's also another autonomous speaking with you, and when you try to distinguish between this and that physical condition that they are dealing with and other things that happen in the world, this distinction as well as the connection is not one-to-one. That's the answer that I have today. Okay, but that conversation was in the Department of Politics and Governance. Okay, a student was going from politics and scientific, because I was thinking about, okay, there is science, but then there is politics. So how do we manage the two? And then a student was going from something that was, politics and governance and philosophy of science, and seeing the reality check on philosophy of science and so on in terms of political events, to a person that went on to do the philosophy of medicines and applied philosophy of medicines on applied medicines, but would also have holistic healing type of studies. Okay, certification is nothing. Okay, it's nothing. It is something in the sense of like it's important for you to know what you need to know, but it's not actually you knowing what you need to know. There's only very limited things that you can learn in certifications, not anywhere near enough. But when you do know them, it's sometimes even, yes, you need to know that if you're not going to put seals on a baby's head because it might croak. But other than that, if you know that, then there's a lot more you need to know than to treat the baby. You usually treat the parents first. So yes, big endings that I'm not sure on what level they will be felt, and they might not be felt immediately, in the sense that it's not that you didn't know what happened. It's just like you don't know the meaning of what happened just yet. You don't understand it just yet, or maybe you do. Maybe that's the eureka moment. You wouldn't think of Saturn as Eureka, but it's also the ruler of Aquarius, which is the lightning bolt. Oh, it's that. Okay, a lot quicker than air is a lot quicker than Earth. Okay, and it's also take this from Lana, multiple topics one after the other. Okay, with Aquarius, you're not building the climbing up the ladder, but you're dealing with, if I will give not my analogy, but use Feynman's analogy to the mathematics and the history of mathematics. It goes like this. Well, there were the Babylonians, and the Babylonians, they would discover a couple of rules here, a couple of rules there, and then they would slowly begin to connect them without requiring everything to connect in order to call it a cosmology. Okay, so there's and also the empire. Okay, if it would conquer a place, it would not be about destroying everything. Probably there was also destruction, but it would be about, okay, hey, you guys, how do you do so and so and so and so, and then you get these people to teach you their sciences and their stuff, and they are having the relationship with the empire in that way, and so the empire becomes rich and wealthy in knowledge. Okay, and the Greek, the axiomatic mathematics, the way they did that is you have a couple of axioms. Everything you discover about the world later, okay, all of the mathematics, they have to be able to be translated or expressed in the means of these axioms. Okay, you have a mathematical proof. And so you build a little bit of a pyramid scheme of a science when you do that. It's a tautology. If I can only tell that something is true, if and only if I can express it within the means of what I already know is true, I have a tautology. Okay, it's a scientific bias. It gives you a little bit of a unity around the empire, but it also blocks you from scientific advancement, to be quite frank. And you know, the Hellenistic astrology took a little bit from Babylonian astrology as it went. This is not to say that it didn't innovate or that it didn't contribute. Of course it did, but it can also contribute. You can only contribute within the pyramidic place that you are, and not. And if it doesn't work with that, then you're just not science. So this is a very good example to what is Capricorn, which is more like axiomatic mathematics, and you have to climb up the ladder so you have a final proof of everything, and the Babylonian mathematics, which is basically, I discover some here, discover some there, discover patterns, and this allows you to begin to express stochastic type of patterns, to chaotic. Okay, when I say chaotic, I don't mean lack of pattern, I mean pattern that is not definite. Okay, non-linear type of mathematics. Also the science. Now you can look into fluid dynamics. Right now is the peak time for fluid dynamics, and talking about Feynman, they solved a certain fluid dynamic problem of basically when the sprinkler revolves around, and then the water that is kind of spits, they move in the opposite direction, and it's like, how does this happen? So I haven't found out how they solved it. Again, my mind is a bit goo right now, but this is peak time to look into and get updated with fluid dynamics. We talk about weather. So weather as it manifests in fluid dynamics as indication for weather stuff, but also for Earth stuff, like earthquakes and stuff, especially with Uranus and co-present with Jupiter in Taurus. So all those big events, big knowledges are happening. We also see there's Philip Filipov, and there is, I think it's called Michael, the Dutch guy that is doing the earthquake predictions by the it's not the astrology, but basically the places of the planets in the sky. Why I'm saying not the astrology, because astrology is not just the planets. Okay, it's spiritual facet to astrology. There are many ways to do astrology, but the research into, well, how is our Earth affected by all these planets around us, and can we use that to predict? We have successfully done that And you can go to Philip Filipov or to Michael, the Dutch guy, I don't remember. Yes. And they do that. So more on this triple conjunction. It incorporates the entire zodiac. That's true. And I thought, why am I talking about why the moon? And I want to talk about the 11th degree a little bit more, because this episode began with an ascendant in Cancer in the 11th degree. And so the moon here is indirectly involved. The moon is in Libra, it's going over Ketu, and then it's ruled by Venus, that's in Aquarius, with Saturn in Jupiter sign. So again, even this moon has to go by the Aquarius realm. Okay? Why? Because of the relations of rulership. The moon can make a contribution, but it goes through Venus to Aquarius and back to Aquarius. So Aquarius is a big juncture, it's a strange attractor of this chaotic system. And 11th degree, so it has to do with electricity, it has to do with energy, it has to do with aviation, electronics, and it has to do with suicide. This is by degree theory of Nikola Stoyanovich. And we see it from the two squaring planets, one that rules the Chiron Rao and the one that rules the triple conjunction, and indirectly Mars itself. But Mars indirectly is in the sign of the ruler of that Jupiter. It's kind of a weird loop, a lot of weird loops happening here. So this one is, it's kind of like two suicidal people having an argument. But they're somehow finding a weird relation. It can be multiple, various attempts of doing the same thing. So hacking, people trying to shut. So let's say the revolutionary act of shutting down the entire system power. Okay, let's take a country like the US. Talk about cancer, I don't know. So who would want to shut down the entire US power? One, some terrorists. There are plenty of them. Let's put them all in one category. Two, allies and opponents, because allies are opponents and opponents are allies, depending on the context. Okay, so other countries. I don't have to name. Three, and I mean big countries. Okay, I don't mean like a dot, not like the Monaco type of land countries, like big countries. Three, the people who had been evacuated because they couldn't pay the electricity bill. How many people we have in the street that couldn't pay the electricity bill? If one of them even got to be connected with somebody, that would be the only way to make a statement. Farmers! The heck, what's happening with farmers? Huh? The people that were exploited in agriculture. It's not landowners, but employees. New energy companies that want to create a big problem so that they can come with an innovative solution. The companies that sells generators. Okay, I'm only beginning, and I listed, I think, at least a dozen factors, a dozen interests to commit the same act of hacking into the power system and having an energy or power cut all across, let's say, the US or, I don't know, some other country. That's what's predicted with this one. Again, I'm not saying that the entire country will go, but I'm saying some event will be, it can be small, it can be big, and there will be multiple interests to commit to the same thing. And those people might not even be related, but there is also fraction between those who want to do this. So there are streams within and also streams without that want to commit the same action, but there is an argument about the way and about the philosophy. Okay? Let's take a country like Israel. So let's say before 7th of October, women had problems to go on the bus because there were women in the center. What kind of religious weird things? So women would be totally satisfied if one day, let's say, nobody could travel. Yes? But then there would always also be veterans that couldn't pay for the ticket. Or couldn't get a driving license, or couldn't drive it, or something like this. They would also be interested. And so the veterans might say, okay, let's close all the central junctures to the this, to the that. And the ladies will say, yes, but there are also women that go into labor, going to hospitals. We don't want to hurt them. But the veterans say, oh, we were forcibly hospitalized. We want that to be blocked. We want people to not be at hospital. Okay, this is where they both want to shut this down, and they're not sure about the how. And their argument is about the way, but also the reason, the philosophy behind this. This is a philosophical reasoning behind what we'll see here. And even ideological for the co-presence of Uranus. So different ideologies, agreement on what we should do, but not how. Agreement of, in general, something of that sort we should do, but not knowing how, or not agreeing on a why, or what would be the desired outcome of this. For example, we talk about the revolution. Let's take Poland, because Poland had a little bit of a revolution. So let's say, why would a queer person versus a conservative person want to rebel the government? So the conservative person wants to grow its own chickens and crops and cows and the F with this government, okay? But the queer person, they want to just be. So the outcome for them is like, yeah, you can grow your crops, but I need to just be without being in life danger. Okay, so they both have to agree on what is the day after the revolution. Okay? That's also what we're seeing here. One person says, oh, everybody has their own land, their own this, their own that. What about gays? We should burn them. I don't know. No, I'm gay. Oh, but that's okay. So that is very much the type of discussion. And legislation is affected, trade is affected, the children are affected, borders, Saturn is borders, Saturn, Mars, borders, Saturn ruling Mars, air borders, Mars divisive, air, competition as well. Is it like something like a space journey? Yes, absolutely. Can be. Not impossible. If so, journeying is very likely to Venus and Mars. So, oh, Pluto. More about this. Well, probably I'm going to shut this down and then I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'm going to think and I'm going to come with brand new ideas. But I've already been speaking for nearly 2 hours, disturbing all the neighbors. Yes, if you ask what is this for me? Well, it involves the entire zodiac. You see this weird, intricate relationship of rulerships here. So I cannot quite tell, okay? It will be felt on your Pisces quite, your Pisces, the Pisces places and people in your life are going to feel that. The Aquarius are going to have the know-how more so than others, even including the Pisces, because Pisces, they're going to feel that viscerally, but Aquarius are going to know why that happened. Why and how are now by Aquarius and to some degree Tauruses. So you again, my best advice to you is, who are these Aquariuses in your life? So when you know who are these Aquariuses in your life, or what field, what house it is in your life, then this is your go-to. And yes, I have to. Yes, I'll take. You know what I'll do? I will take a little bit of a break, and then I'll make the houses. Okay, I'll do it by house, so you'll know what to pay attention to. Okay, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to um, separate it into two videos. So I'm going to leave this video, I'm going to upload this video, and I'll be back right on with the next breakdown for the 12 ascendants, especially focusing on Aquarius. So you won't have to scroll 2 hours to get to yours. So that's what's up.